All right, good morning, everyone. We're just going to wait another few minutes for folks to join in, and then we'll kick off. All right, Gauri, we're at 11:05, so I think we can kick off. All right, we have almost everyone here. We are good to go. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, yes, I think Mallika, the Mr. Lokesh has joined as an attendee. That's the message I see.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
just sent a message.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just going to make sure he gets the speaker link once.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, I'll join. Before I start, I just want to let everyone know that this meeting is being recorded. I hope that is okay with everyone. Yeah. All right. So we can kick off. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for making the time to be here with us today. My name is Mallika, and I will be moderating today's session along with Gauri. The Church Street First initiative, like many of you already know, has been one that has gotten a lot of interest and excitement over the last year and a half. While there have been many global examples of successful pedestrianization projects, this one has really become a shining example, I would say, of what this could look like in an Indian city. This pilot has really revealed the true value of pedestrianization for urban centers that are unfortunately today known for congestion and traffic. From an improvement in ambient air quality, reduction in noise, increased public transport usage, as well as higher satisfaction among street users. There's a wealth of knowledge to really dive into for us to scale, replicate, and see more permanent projects like this in the city. It's really been a true testament to the partnership and coordination between multiple organizations and individuals, many of whom are here today. So today's session is really split into two parts. The first is understanding and talking about the processes and experiences that went into actually setting up this pilot project, trying to understand how to make these projects more permanent. And then the second part, we're going to dive into some of the benefits that have emerged. So with that, I'll pass over to Gauri to give a quick introduction to our panelists, and then we can dive into session one.
Thank you, Mallika. Good morning, everyone. It's really great to be having this session. I will take the next minute to quickly introduce who's on call with us today. We have Srimati V. Manjula, the Commissioner of Directorate of Urban Land Transport under the Government of Karnataka. We have Professor Ashish Verma, the Associate Professor of Transportation Systems Engineering, the convener of IISc Sustainable Transport Lab, and the Department of Civil Engineering under IISc. We also have with us Sonal Kulkarni, who's the Chief Research and Innovation Officer of Directorate of Urban Land Transport under Government of Karnataka. We have with us Satya Shankaran, the Bicycle Mayor of Bangalore and the co-founder of Urban North. We have with us also Basavaraj Kabade, the Superintending Engineer at Bengaluru BBMP. Mr. Lokesh is here with us. I am not sure if he has joined the call, but he is on this call. The Chief Engineer of Project BPMP. Yatish VT, who's the founder of Broke Artists Collective. Mr. Peter Sampson is joining us in just a minute. He is a social worker and helped mobilize some of the different stakeholders involved in the Church Street pilot. And we might be joined by Mr. Irfan Noor, representative of the Church Street Occupants Association, who's not on call as yet, but we expect him to come at any point in time. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for taking time out of your very, very busy schedules to be with us here today and to continue the conversation for pedestrianization in Bengaluru. Here, passing the mic back to Mallika to start off the first part of the discussion.
Sure. Just give me 1 second. Sure. So I think, Gauri, do you want to take the processes and experiences?
Yes, just a second, sorry.
And then I'll jump in at 2 o'clock.
Sounds good. Great. All right. So we will roughly the format we will be following is that there are some questions, and we hope that each of the speakers can limit their responses to roughly 3 minutes, so that everybody gets a chance to share their experiences. I'll direct the questions at the relevant speakers, and if you feel like there's something you would like to add, please let us know over chat. For the audience who is on this call, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat box to post your questions. We have 10 minutes of a slot reserved at the end of the first session, which is between 11:50 and 12 o'clock to go over those. So in that case, without further ado, my first question is to Manjula ma'am and Professor Ashish Verma. If you can speak a little bit about the inception of Church Street pedestrianization pilot and why Church Street was chosen for this pilot. And if you can also shed some light on the partnerships that made such a pilot possible. I'll start with Manjula ma'am and Ashish sir, if you can come in after.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for organizing this webinar. See, there is a Indo-UK partnership, and an offshoot of that was the Innovating for Clean Air program. This is a Indo-UK initiative. And there are organizations called Catapults in UK. These are funded by the Innovate UK. And there are about 9 of them, and each of them, focus on a particular area or domain. So I think the initiation started much before we actually, fast-tracked the implementation. We have this entire idea was in the talks. It was being discussed between DALT, between IISc, and between Catapult and Urban North. So for quite some time. So there was an, because after, this is clean air program, therefore there was a focus on electric vehicle technologies and air quality measurement technologies, etc. So the initial idea was to do a test bed, and Church Street was chosen because it's one of the iconic streets in, in our city. It's in the central Bangalore, and it's also been made over very nicely. So it's a street which is made for pedestrianization. So it's like you say made for each other. Like, so the Church Street was made for, doing this test bed. So therefore initially itself, there was a discussion, and this, it was decided that the clean air street test bed must be implemented in Church Street. So that's the reason why it was chosen, because there is not much investment you need to make on improving infrastructure and so on. And it's in a state where it can be easily taken forward for a for implementation of pedestrianized street. So as I mentioned, there are many partners. So there was some division of roles and responsibilities also. Catapult was, was responsible for actually, so this is the first test bed we are implementing here in, Bengaluru. So Catapult gave us some initial guidance, etc. And this is Catapult energy system, because I said there are many, many catapults there. And they also kind of did the first call for participants. Like they floated a call for innovators to come forward and participate. The first call was done by them. They also did some initial work in signage and communication outreach, etc. IISC's role was to kind of be a do a concurrent kind of data collection and evaluation. Professor Ashish Verma will probably shed more light on it, so that we are measuring the impact of this experiment or this initiative as we are implementing it. Urban Morph was the Catapult's local partner, providing all the support that is needed for the startups, for the innovators, and even to DULT in taking this process forward. And DULT was responsible for all logistic arrangements, coordinating with various government stakeholders and so on. So initially we had these 4 partners on board, and more came in as we moved forward. But I suppose I should stop here and then, let Professor Ashish Verma add something, and then we'll come back to how we got more people on board and how we went forward. Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am. I think you have covered everything because as madam said, while the initial idea was discussed among the core 3-4 partners, DULT, Catapult, IISC, and Urban Morph, but essentially once the idea was understood and everybody was ready to take it, it was all DULT which spearheaded this whole plan into an action. And this whole pilot, the way it happened, all the coordination and groundwork, all the difficult part was done by DLT. We did the easier part, I would say. And we always talk about some foreign examples when we propose these kind of initiatives anywhere in India, and the general response we always get is, that's a different context. Things are very different in India. It's not possible to do these kind of interventions. These are fancy ideas, but doesn't work in India, and so on. So that way, we really wanted to put forth this pilot as a benchmark study to help a pure Indian case study and understand in a holistic sense what all it impacts, how it brings a positive change. And with that in place, with the comprehensive assessment being done by us, I think it's a wonderful case study and benchmark for any further initiatives. Now nobody can say, okay, these concepts are alien and doesn't work in India. So we have our own Indian case study to tell it to everybody who has kind of a question mark on these kind of initiatives. So it was all DULT's effort, I would say, that led us to everything that we could implement. Yeah, that's all.
If I can add further, I don't know, you were dealing with it a little later, I suppose, but once it was decided, we had a stakeholder meeting sometime in September, actually. And there are many other people came in. So Mr. Ashish Verma was talking about coordination and logistics. See, coordination is something, it's a 2-way, 3-way, 4-way process. See, one person or one organization cannot coordinate. With whom are you doing that? So there are other similar, organizations with similar interests who have to come forward, and then that is becomes possible. I say Mr. Peter here. So Mr. Peter was one of the persons who was like an anchor for us in Church Street. Now we have this Church Street. We have to go there, sell this idea to businesses, to residents, to everybody. But we need somebody, who can introduce us, who can take us there, and who can introduce us. A person who has been there, who knows everybody. So Mr. Peter was somebody like that. So I think we just happened to meet him in or got to know him through some process. Probably Sonal will throw more light on it, but he was there for us as a catalyst in ensuring on facilitating these interactions. Similarly, Basavaraj Kabade is here from BBMP. When we had our initial stakeholder meeting, we had BBMP officers. Mr. Basavaraj Kabade was there. We had also the architect who was responsible for designing the chess street, Mr. Naresh Narasimhan, and then we had a lot of other people from the police. Also, we had police officers. When everybody came together, we had some idea on how to do it, but I would say that idea changed. Initially, we were thinking of doing pedestrianization on one day of the weekend, but on Sunday. But then everybody said, no, not just Sunday. We must do it from Saturday onwards. And the whole structure of this program got made in this stakeholder discussions. People came forward and said, we should take care of residents. It is very difficult to know that on Church Street, which is a commercial, we all think it's a commercial street, type of a street and so on. There are about 40 odd, apartments, and there are people living there. They have certain concerns and issues. It's very difficult to know. But then somebody mentioned there are these 3 apartment complexes and we need to take them into confidence and so on and so forth. So the entire structure of the program got made during these stakeholder discussions. So slowly, as we talk to the businesses, talk to residents, talk to the other stakeholders like BBMP and the traffic police, we got an idea on how to do it. How do you ensure residents have free movement, and how do you ensure that permits are given to restaurants to use the space outside their restaurant area to kind of do some kind of al fresco dining and things like that. Because we were also functioning during the COVID, though after the first lockdown there is a feeling that cases are coming down, but it was not. It still was a COVID time. I don't know. Even now we can say it is, but at that time it was much. So we had to think about COVID appropriate behavior, COVID appropriate measures, and so on and so forth. So I will stop here. I just wanted to add that. So thank you. And Professor Ashish Verma and his team here, his associate Hemantini and others also kind of started with their own survey formats, etc. And how do you capture this data? What do you capture? That's also important, because we might do pedestrianization, we might have a test bed, but unless you have some kind of empirical evidence, people will not believe. And this is also very important because generally businesses oppose pedestrianization, generally, because they feel if you pedestrianize a street, the business will come down because people can no longer come to their doorstep in their car or in their two-wheeler. So this is once again, here of course in Church Street, businesses were kind of open to the idea, but generally we find in every place it was the problem. So this also gave us an opportunity to dispel that notion that if you pedestrianize a street, your business will come down. So we needed somebody to measure all this information, collect this data, and an agency which is not government, because then people would say, government has got this data, and because they want to project something, it's an agency which has good reputation, which is outside government, and which is able to do that in a very systematic and transparent manner. That's where the IISc also and UrbanMorph also came in. So thank you.
Sorry, I guess our conversation directly moves to the second part of this, the natural question, which is how did so many agencies coordinate? And I would like to hear Basavaraj Kabade sir and Lokesh sir give us some insight into what this was like for BBMP and what it took to coordinate such a project. Thank you, Manjula ma'am. It was a great segue into the next question.
Good morning, everyone. As Madam Manjula Madam said, this pedestrianization of Church Street was thought before the actual project itself took off. I mean, when we completed this project in 2017, so the main intention was to make it pedestrianization. That's why you see those granite cobblestones, which will lessen up the speed and all. But there are a lot of resistance from other quarters, like ma'am was telling that resistance from the local persons and all. So we did a study in 2019, took the independently through a college, and we had taken an opinion survey of pedestrians, 9 days, 24 hours, we have done the studies, including capturing CCTVs and all. So there are a lot of people who are walking on the streets, they have given a good opinion that it has to be pedestrianized. But when it has to be done, when it has not to be done, the hours and all, that was not very conclusive, but there were a few resistance from the people who are saying there is a lot of conflict between the pedestrians and the vehicles because of the parking spaces we provided. Many said that it was not needed in those streets because the parking is provided, there is a lot of conflict. So when this report was submitted to BBMP, there we had a discussion with other stakeholders, but that time we could not take any call, any decisions. But when actually Madam Manjula Madam came in, that time it was mooted, and it was I mean, because of Madam's this one, all the stakeholders in or fallen in line, and it was a decision taken to implement it in the weekends. So like all the agencies, Sonal and her team, they worked day and night. They approached the local people. They convinced that this will be only on weekends, Saturdays, Sundays, and it was ensured that the traffic police were there at all the times to implement it. It was ensured that the people working there, I mean, our Paura Karmikas were ensured to be there to clean up the streets every 2 hours, 3 hours, and see that no garbage stays there. It was also ensured that deployment of marshals at both the ends to see that there are no violations. As Madam was telling, if there are, because of the COVID, if there are any violations, they levied penalties, and it was a very successful this one, and the ultimate output also, as per the Professor Ashish Verma sir's report also, we see a very wonderful results in terms of improvement in air quality and other things. So all said and done, it's a teamwork of all the departments, like not only from Satya or the local residents, the association, from the DUL team, excellent job, and whatever support that was needed to be given from BBMP, it was there. So it was a teamwork, and well executed, and probably in coming future we expect the same to happen with the support from Manjula ma'am. Manjula ma'am says it has to be done by BBMP, but some hand holding should be there from the higher orders so that we can implement it.
Thank you, Basaraj. Lokesh sir, if you can come in and share your experience of having implemented this entire project.
Good morning, madam. Good morning to all. I was a part of the implementation of this Church Street project. Later on, I mean, the intention, as Kabade was mentioning, to reduce the speed, we fixed the cobblestones, and we gave a granite footpath for mainly to focus on pedestrianization. Later on, whatever development has happened under the able leadership of Madam Manjula Madam, balance is the history now. Now, I would like to stop at this one, because Kabade and Madam have explained everything.
Thank you, Lokesh sir. Maybe we can come back later to see on the question of how such a project continues in its existence. Before we get to that, I would like to bring in Peter Sampson at this point to shed some light on how the consensus building. You were amongst the first few touch points for this project, and you mobilized a lot of the different stakeholders on ground. How was that experience like? Was there a change in mindset that you saw, and what was the basic consensus building activity?
Good morning to everyone, and I thank Manjula Madam, Satya and Sonal. Because of them, I was there. I think I met Satya and Sonal on Church Street, because normally I'm part of this area residents, and I was standing there, and Satya explained to me, Satya and Sonal, that they're planning that, and that was very passionate. I always, like, we are Bengaloreans, born and brought up here. We've seen a Bangalore in 70s, 80s, and all that. How calm, peaceful, and we were all pollution free, and that was the passion always with me. And I basically work on environment, like save trees, all that. And today, what we see Bangalore is the traffic and more of stone and concrete. So we were looking back again at Bangalore. So I had that passion. We need to have one street that, where there's no pollution, there'll be no honking, and, you can walk freely on that street, freely on the street without a fear of traffic, and this, sure, Bangaloreans all enjoyed this initiative, which was done by DALP. And where I came in is, since I was a familiar, and earlier also I'd met a lot of people there, and I knew them. So I thought it's a nice, good opportunity for me to get into this initiative. And then, since I knew most of them, I spoke to them, explained to them that what is good and what is not good, explained to them. And it took little time, going to each one and explaining to them, "See, we're going to have this. So at least 2 days in a weekend will be like pollution free. There's no pollution, there's no sound, and and there's this street where everyone will come." And so I spoke to them, and I think convinced most of them of doing that. And most of the work was done by Satya and Sonal, actually talking to the residents. There were a lot of things that, there were no's, but few of them supported us, the Association of Church Street Vendors Association, and they came in. And I think Sonal and this thing spoke to ML also, Sonal and Satya. So the same way, a lot of hurdles were there. I think Satya knows that. Satya and Sonal knows a lot of hurdles were there from the people who Church Street. It was not an easy task, because since it was a pilot project. But somehow we managed it. We faced all the hurdles there, and we got a go from 60% of them. Then again, we had 30% the residence area saying no. And I think somehow we had a meeting with MLA Manjula Madam and all the things, and they were convinced at one stage. So I think the thing started. See, the people who can do this, who have passion for this city, we were born here, we know the old Bangalore and know what Bangalore is today. So that's the reason I took part in this, because I always work for environment and see that, we can save more trees, more clean air, so we can breathe clean. The future can breathe clean. So my thing is that in future, the many places should have the same. Once the pilot is started, in other places also should start this. So thank you. That's my contribution.
Thank you so much, Peter sir. And I think that role played by you is so important for bringing all the different voices who are either directly involved or affected by such a project together, and to get the sorry, my cat has something to say. And really thank you for it. We'll come back to you with some more pointed questions. At this point, I would like to direct my next question to Manjula ma'am, Satya, and Yatish, specifically from. It was just not a pedestrianization. The road was not pedestrianized. There were activities that were planned around Church Street with a specific focus on culture, and also looking at how Church Street can become a test bed for EV. And to that respect, I would like to ask, why were these activities? I mean, it would have been easier for just a pedestrianized road, but these activities were also planned to attract more people. So if you can speak to that effect, and why, how such a, I mean, like the artists and musicians really brought and represented the culture of Bangalore on that one street. It really looked like a microcosm, or that is Bangalore. So if we can speak to that as well. I'll start with Manjula ma'am.
Thank you. So it started as a clean air street test bed. So the original objective was also use the pedestrianized street as a test bed for giving opportunity to innovators in electric vehicle technology and air quality measurement technologies to display the products, to get valuable data, valuable feedback, and if required, go back and bring improvements to their products. So and therefore there are two things we are testing there. One was all these technologies which are being tested through the innovators, and then we are also learning through the testing process how, as a regulator, we need to deal with these technologies. The other thing is, what is the process that you follow for pedestrianizing a street? What needs to be done? Because different streets have different typologies, so you need to also kind of take that into account, and maybe more of it later. Now, you spoke about artists, etc. So two things happen. One, of course, we had to have a social media team there, to be available to also create some kind of a buzz about the whole initiative. So there is a social media team put in place with, and they were using the social media, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, etc., to kind of create a buzz about the whole experience and so on and so forth. And then we also had, and I think Sonal will speak more about it, how we got the artists, etc., to come in. One is that it was like curated to some extent, but to some extent it was not curated at all. People just came there. Like somebody took a guitar and came there and sang a song. It became like people wanted to use it as a stage where they can display their talents. The part of it is curated, but part of it was spontaneous. And that was the beauty of it, because it was not really, from end to end, it was not curated at all. So I'll stop here and I will leave it to Satya and Sonal to add more information. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Satya, Sonal, and then finally, Yatish, your experience of as the founder of Broke Artists Collective. Satya, you can go.
Sure, I think ma'am put it very well. One of the key points she had laid out was that we cannot overdo the whole activity piece, and it has to be quite natural and it has to be sustainable in the long run. So that kind of framed how the activities were done on the street. One of the things that I was doing there was also to look at this whole mobility component, right? So that's a very key aspect of people coming and enjoying the street. The cleaner street, obviously, with the current constraint of climate change and everything, it was required for us to understand the value of pedestrianization and active mobility and certain environment-friendly modes like micro EVs and things like that. So we had these innovators from micro mobility modes, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and others to cater to a certain segment of audience who are not actively mobile. So it was far more inclusive by using those vehicles. In fact, some of those three-wheelers and electric vehicles were ferrying older people and people with other abilities inside the block stretch. So what it presented, and Church Street, like Kabade had mentioned, was by design was trying to encourage the use of active mobility and clean modes, but to convert people and make them understand what it feels like, because it's quite an alien concept, not necessarily completely alien, because we are by nature in our streets walking and cycling along with everything else, but to provide them a safer, cleaner environment and yet be able to influence an uptick in the economic activity there, because predominantly Church Street is commercial, even though there are residents. And it is one of the hubs of our city in some way. It is also blessed by having a metro station on the street itself. So we have to leverage these investments that have already been put in for the sake of the city and for us to move more better. If all these things have been done, what is then preventing us from doing that? So the pilot included clean mobility modes for serving a certain segment of society. We also had a lot of cyclists coming in the mornings and staying there. The alfresco dining permits helped. It gave a visualization of what a beautiful street could look like. And we also had, an uptick, like Professor Verma will talk about, in the usage of the metro. And this presents what today we are trying to look at as how can public transport and active mobility modes and clean technologies influence the future of the cities. So most of the work around that was just coordinating and making sure we learn from these experiences and see how these can be scaled. Like ma'am mentioned, the typologies are different. It may not necessarily be the same in all kinds of streets, but yet it presented a visualization in an Indian context.
Thank you, Satya. I guess, Sonal, if you can also speak to this and how the life of on Church Street really came to be, all the activities and the bustle that we came to see.
Thank you for that question. So basically, when we're pedestrianising the street, we also thought that to keep people more engaged, we need to provide a platform for artists and performers to come here and entertain people. There was already, the character of the street was already such that there were a lot of restaurants and that would anyway attract people, but also along with the dining, we could also have an experience of music and art and things like that. So that's why we chose to do or curate certain activities, and for that we basically put out an open call for artists to actually apply to perform or to showcase their art. And it was very heartening because like a lot we understood from this, I mean, when we did the open call, that there are so many artists in the city who actually want this kind of a platform, and we were happy to provide that kind of a platform on a pedestrianized street. So all we had to do is, because of COVID, we had to restrict the number of artists and performers, because we didn't want to again crowd the street with a lot of activities, because that would sort of become epicenter of a lot of people gathering and things like that. But yeah, there was a certain kind of effort that went into curating these people. And as I said, there were a lot of people who applied, and we couldn't give a chance to everyone, but we hope that if this continues in the future, we can engage more of these people, and we have all their contact details and everything. So we hope to continue it soon.
Thank you, Sonal. Over to Yatish for his experience.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I think I'm seeing all the people who made it possible for us to get to the street are in this screen right now. Thank you all so much for putting it together and making that space available for all these artists who were there. So we were there from third week onwards, I think, third week of November till the end of Church Street Initiative. And for us, it was more about, we were not prepared for an event like Church Street. We didn't know something like that was happening until another friend let us know that this street is being pedestrianized and it's available for artists to come and do something over there. And so it was a leap of faith before we could say yes to coming on Church Street. We didn't know how many artists were there, and we were a collective. So we had to just find whoever was there in Bangalore at that point in time, because it was the COVID times, and we just we had about 7 artists who were available in Bangalore at that point in time. And by the end of it, we ended up finding around 190 other artists who were there. Right now, it's a group of 190 artists who are still waiting for another space or somewhere else where we can go and present our work. I think the idea that was about Church Street was always home for us. That's where street is where we came from. So Church Street is where we were busking, and that's where I met most of the artists I found on Church Street. And we used to sell it at pay what you like and take what you love. And that kind of became the reason why we could, put no restrictions on what was happening around that Broke Artist Collective space, because everybody agreed to the same terms and conditions everybody else was doing. So no 2 artists were competing with each other. They were all there to share that space, and they were not fighting for who is visible and who is not, and who gets the space and who doesn't. There was no such thing that was happening. But the space was shared because this space was given to us for free, and we gave that space back to the artists as it was given to us, under the same conditions it was given to us. So there was no bias towards who was given the space. And I guess we followed the same, like the kind of space we want to be in is the space we tried to create. And we were happy with everything that went through. And we tried as best as we can to not let anyone down, whether it was the COVID protocol times when the whole street was a stage, and because of COVID, I think I was longing for something like a Woodstock to happen, to celebrate that kind of, coming out of the shells that we put ourselves in. And December looked like exactly that. Church Street was the Woodstock that we were all kind of looking for. It was music, art, celebration every day, everywhere, in spite of all that was happening through 2020. And that was the greatest takeaway for us. And we found a community that is willing to go further and keep doing it again and again every time we get an opportunity. And there are more artists who are still looking for an opportunity to. I know it's not about selling or anything. It's just about finding that platform where we can come comfortably and say, hey, I'm there and I'm an artist. and this is the work I do. And that's what worked for us. And thank you all for making that space available for us.
Thank you so much, Yatish. Truly, I mean, I have been to Church Street on the weekends many a times when it was pedestrianized. And for all of us who are avid consumers of all that Bangalore has to offer, it really was a microcosm where you could meet all kinds of artists. In fact, every kind of talent got its space there. Which brings me to my next question. The footfall significantly increased over the weekends when the road was pedestrianized. And Satya also spoke to the leveraging investments that have been put into the city, the fact that the metro is present there. There must have also been some planning related to parking around Church Street in order to accommodate such a footfall. I'd like to ask Peter Sampson, who did some work on this front, and Sonal and Manjula ma'am, even if you can speak to that effect. Unfortunately, we are at 11:43, so we'll have to keep our responses short because I have one more question, which I think is very, very crucial before we can close the session. Peter, sir, you're on mute.
When you talk of the first thing you talk about that you're blocking a street, basically the business people, the vendors, they just straight away think, what about the park? How will the vehicle come? What will happen to my business? So that's the main challenge we'll face if you try this initiative anywhere in Bangalore. So I think again we discussed with Satya, Sonal, and I think they discussed with Manjula ma'am, and we said that we will provide parking. You know, that was the biggest hurdle over there. So when we said yes, there's space where we're going to allow parking and this thing and all this thing, then they were like they were convinced to say yes to this initiative. So that's the biggest challenge we face. I think, am I right, Satya? I think parking was the main there, and they were worried. And the same issue came out with some apartments also. How will my driver come? And that was all handled by Satya and so on. I didn't get involved with the residents. I was involved with these people, vendors. So when these are the spot where parking will be there, then they got convinced, and I think then we started moving. I told Satya that's okay now. Then introduced Satya to everyone over there. We went around to each shop and each vendor over there, restaurants, some other people, other shops, and we convinced them. So this was the main challenge there in the beginning before we could start.
If I may add to that, see, we can't provide the parking always and whatever people want. That must be kept in mind. So that's the reason why initially itself we interacted with BMRCL, because the metro station that was exiting, that entrance that was exiting onto the Church Street was closed for some days. So we got it open so that it is more convenient for people to access the metro station from the Church Street and so on. The second point was that there was a CPS parking, which the BBMP very graciously agreed to give it to us. They made that parking provider to give some spaces to us free of cost, which could be used for, you see, there are a lot of these delivery guys coming in. They have to park somewhere, walk across, deliver the product and go back and so on. So that was something which we had used for such kind of parking, also for parking for drivers, maids, and so on and so forth. Then there was a paid parking, which Shobha has given us. I think it was 100 parking spaces or something. Sonal will confirm that. So Shobha also gave us the paid parking. It was a paid parking as per their own terms and conditions. But we were very clear in our mind that we can't provide, see, you can't pedestrianize the street and everybody cannot come to that street in cars and two-wheelers and things like that. Then no amount of parking will be really, really sufficient, and that we need to keep in mind, that aspect, because it is so well connected by public transport, as Satya mentioned. We also expect people to come by public transport. And I think initially we did some kind of a survey. Sonal will also talk about it. We wanted to know how the people working in shops, businesses, how are they coming? And we found that a sizable number, significant number was coming by public transport. If that is so, then we decided that this much arrangement should be good enough to kind of assuage the concerns of people, some people, but still there are concerns being expressed about no parking, this and that, but we have to live with it. there is nothing called in the, infinite amount of parking. And we also don't want to, kind of provide that kind of a parking at all. So, thank you.
Yeah, as ma'am was saying, we initially, just to understand the demand of parking, we did a entire survey of all the shops and restaurants that are there on Church Street to understand what is the kind of demand. And what we understood was that not many people, actually most of the people who are working in a restaurant, like the lower rung people who are working in the restaurant or a shop, they're all actually using sustainable modes of transport. They're either coming by walk or cycle, and some of them are using public transport. So only like the owners of a shop or owner of the restaurant or something are the only ones who are actually using the two-wheeler or a four-wheeler. So we didn't see that much of a demand, and then we probably like we told them that for 2 days in a week you can take another mode, take a more sustainable mode, and most of them agreed to it. So I mean, for the rest of the people, as ma'am said, we already had asked Shobha to provide a particular number of parking for them to pay and park, and not free parking. Free parking should be nowhere actually. Parking has a fee, and I mean, so if you're pedestrianizing a street, it shouldn't be that you're compensating that by parking in some other streets and coming to this particular street. So especially when, as both ma'am and Satya were mentioning, especially when there is a metro station right, which drops you right at the heart of that particular street, we thought that parking is something that shouldn't be the primary concern for us.
Thank you, Sonal. Sorry, yes.
Gauri, if I may just add on this whole discussion on the parking. See, in a strict technical sense, in the transport policy, domain, we generally look at such kind of, initiatives of, say, restricting parking as a well thought demand management intervention, essentially to see if we can achieve what we call it as push and pull effect, in the sense that we want to discourage people to use their personal modes, which are not sustainable, and encourage them to use sustainable modes like public transport, walking, and cycling. With that intention, the idea was to also see whether we achieve that push and pull effect or not. And when we did our impact assessment in terms of how the mode share of people has changed, how they were traveling to Church Street before the pedestrian action and how they traveled during the pedestrian action, we actually saw a 15% decrease in the mode share of personal modes of shop owners on the Church Street, and a corresponding 11% increase in the mode share of sustainable modes, which is bus, metro, walk, and cycle together. Okay. Likewise, even for visitors, there was a 7% decrease in their personal mode share, and 7% increase in the sustainable mode share before and during pedestrianization. So you have to really understand these parking restrictions in terms of this push and pull desired effect that we are achieving, and we could actually achieve that. We'll speak more later on as we'll have time. Yeah.
No, thank you, Professor Ashish Verma, Sonal, and Manjula ma'am. I think the distinction between incentivizing private vehicle use or disincentivizing private vehicle use, rather, especially when we are promoting a project that is that's pedestrianized and NMT centric, is very, very important. And I think the point about not making parking free is one that we should definitely take home from this conversation. I have actually two questions. I'm going to club them in the interest of time. Mallika has also posted on the chat that if the audience has any questions, please feel free to use the chat to ask them right now. I guess there are two broad questions, but in the interest of time, I will club them. If we can go over some of the operational challenges, and I think it has surfaced time and again, but what were some of the operational challenges of a project of this nature, some of the trade-offs, and I think that has also been discussed, but if there are any other that we would like to highlight. And the second part of the question being, how can a pilot like this continue past its pilot phase? And how can citizens and residents of Bengaluru, such as Peter Samset and myself, contribute to such initiatives? And how do we see more pedestrianized streets in Bengaluru from an operational standpoint? I'd like to direct the question to Manjula ma'am first, and then the floor is open for anybody else who would like to respond.
Okay, thank you. There would be operational challenges, I know, like because it's spread over a period of 6 months and so on. But if we say the biggest one was to convince every resident, majority were convinced, but there are still groups who were not convinced and who had concerns. So we had to give permits to them to facilitate them to use their vehicles. So it could be cars or two-wheelers, etc. So we gave some number of permits per family. And then there were some people who are very old and senior citizens, and they expressed the concern that our children should be able to visit us. So just to kind of satisfy them, we even gave some limited number of permits to their children so that they can come and visit them. So that concern we wanted to remove. The concern that something happens, an emergency, my car can't go or somebody cannot come, that concern we wanted to remove. And therefore that was one thing which was an, let's say, an operational issue, which we resolved it in such manner. The second was mostly to do with the fact that we were in COVID time. So COVID appropriate behavior had to be enforced. So as Baswaraj Kabade mentioned, that marshals were anyway empowered to fine people were not wearing masks. We put signage, kind of urging people to wear masks, etc. We made some announcements where feasible. And we also had, marshals, kind of enforcing that. Initial days, we had a startup, an innovator, who had actually put Pixweight. They had put these tents through which people had to pass through, and then checking was happening, whether they were their temperature or their mask or wearing, or etc., etc. So apart from that, we also had to put on every Saturday and Sunday 4 adult staff on duty, because we wanted to have people there who can, 2 used to come and go in the morning, 2 used to go in the evening, till the midnight, till the entire, the pedestrianization closed. Mainly to have people there who could resolve any issues that happen. So there would be some issues that happen, come up, somebody may complain saying some group is not wearing a mask, or somebody may complain something else. Sometimes you need to coordinate with police, because there were cases where people would, come earlier, because this pedestrianization used to start from 9 o'clock. They used to come earlier, leave their vehicle, and in between they would come and want to take their vehicle out. So there are so many such kind of pinpricks. So we had, so to face this, we had to really put a lot of manpower in terms of, all the adult staff had this experience. And it was a good experience for them, because there was a learning for them, because they learned to manage the crowd, they learned to coordinate with various stakeholders. It was a learning experience for them also. So these were the main operational challenges that I could say. And if Sonal or Satya want to add something else, they can. Thank you.
I agree with the commissioner. It is because the whole aspect of, like Kabade sir said, it wasn't enough to just build the infrastructure and hope that it will happen. There is a transition of people's minds, habits, behaviors, all of those things needed to be done. And really kudos to the DOLT staff for spending weekends standing on the street and making sure that this thing goes to plan and people start understanding what it is, and establish some amount of habit, so the next time it comes in or somewhere else, people start understanding what does it mean, because we are all in our comfort zones of having used to doing something so far. So converting that included so much of work that needed to go behind the scenes that ma'am was explaining, whether it was managing parking expectations, managing permit expectations. So we are still a lot of managing expectations, and any give that was given now was to say that we will ease you into this whole process. But at some point, you also have to put in your contribution to make this work, right? We have to establish that culture among citizens to say, these things are not cheap, the infrastructure that has been put, whether it is the metro or the street or whatever. And that is going to be the case when we want quality infrastructure everywhere. You can't just have that and let it go to waste. So what got built with compromises, we're still, the effort was to make that work, and really kudos to DOLT for actually making this happen. And we, the effort, I think the second part of the question ma'am should answer is, how do we take it forward? There are lots of challenges in scaling this to the city. I think that is something that we need to look at.
So sorry, I just forgot about that question. So yes, we are working on few, streets and working on design, etc. But I think we can even fast track it. If a group of RWS, group of, civil society organizations come forward and say that we want to pedestrianize this street, maybe on weekends, maybe on whatever, I think we are willing to work with them and make that happen. So this should come like a kind of a demand. So initially, earlier we used to have cycle day where we used to, even now we have again started, of course, we used to block a stretch of street only for few hours on Sunday mornings. And that became a kind of a routine where various communities used to come forward, and every Sunday morning, few hours in different neighborhoods, they used to block the street for cycling and various activities. But if there is some kind of an appetite and the kind of a momentum that has to come for this pedestrianization, apart from pedestrianizing streets, which we always keep talking about, like Commercial Street, Church Street, Gandhi Bazaar, etc. But streets in the neighborhood, or making them do traffic calming, etc., etc. If resident associations are willing and want to come forward, we are willing to work with them. It's a process which may take a little time, but I think all of us are very, very convinced that we need to do that for a sustainable and livable city, and which is definitely what we need to look forward to when, we ourselves as a country among the Committee of Nations, we have said we will reach net zero. We gave a commitment for 2070. We may think 2070 we may not be alive, but to achieve something in 2070, we need to start doing something now. And that's something now we would definitely want to work together with various communities.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That brings me to the end of the operational part of this project. Really, I guess we have a lot of notes and that from how this project can be replicated. And ever since Church Street, by virtue of Bengaluru Moving and the campaign that we are involved with, we know that there is a lot of interest to see pedestrianized roads at neighborhood levels. And hopefully resident welfare associations, active citizens who are interested in active mobility will step up and start claiming these public spaces for themselves. And on that note, yes, ma'am, you want to say something?
Sorry, Gauri, I want to say that you have Lokesh and Baswaraj Kabade. You must also ask them this question so that, they represent the BBMP. So I thought you could ask their opinion too.
Definitely. Basavraj sir and Lokesh sir, if you would like to add, how does a project like this live past its pilot phase, and how do residents and citizens of Bangalore start seeing more pedestrianized roads in the neighborhoods?
Madam, actually, we need to create more such places, and the result of Church Street should be the guiding force for all of us to make more pedestrianization in Bangalore city, like Commercial Street. Now we are already on the way of making it in Gandhi Bazaar. So let us see more and more projects like Church Street, madam.
This should happen like Lokesh said. Now Commercial City is being taken up under Smart City that we had proposed earlier to be taken up under this. Because of the funds, it was transferred to Smart City. The parallelly, ma'am has proposed in Gandhi Bazaar also, it is on its way to be done. And now Avenue Road is also being done in Smart City, which can also be done for pedestrianization. So now there is a concept of like CBD. We can't tell CBD only in the center of Vidhana Saudha and all. Each concept, like each constituency, like Jayanagar, Koramangala, Indiranagar, we have to identify certain streets where there are a lot of commercial activities and a lot of people coming in, going out. Such streets maybe, I think, should be converted into pedestrianization zones. So then only we'll have a lot of people coming into these places wherever metro accessibility is there, good transportation is there, parking spots are there. Like Koramangala, we have done some of the roads like 5th Main, 7th Main, they have been white topped now in front of Empire and all. Such streets could be proposed for pedestrianization. So there are a lot of policy decision that needs to be taken, and with support from DALT and all, I think this can be achieved.
We would work with the BBMP, as Kabade said. He gave a very good idea that we should have an action plan where we could take up one at least for each assembly constituency and so on. So we will work with the BBMP. But I think the other collectives also can come, and give us ideas on which street. It's because it is also about acceptance and how people are willing to take it and willing to experiment with it. We can always experiment and do some sort of a weekend initiative, and then we see how it goes. So we will work out an action plan. As Lokesh said, we already are working on Gandhi Bazaar and a couple of other streets like Jayanagar, 10th Main, and some other streets. And luckily, even in the Suma initiative that we are spearheading, there have been requests to do pedestrianization of certain streets, which are neighborhood streets. We are also working with the communities to do that. So we will try to fast track it, and we also need people to come forward and say. That's why I said communities also come forward, then it will strengthen that. Instead of kind of working against current, then we are with the current, we are working with current of people's support. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you. Sorry, Gauri, I think you should go to the next, I suppose. Sorry to eat into that time.
No,
thank you.
This is, I guess this is the agenda of this entire conversation. How do we get more pedestrian streets? And this is, thank you, Basaraj sir, Lokesh sir, and Manjula ma'am for opening up the floor to get more residents and citizens, active citizens who are interested in such projects to step up and start working with government organizations to make it happen. On that note, I'm not sure if we have any questions yet, but I guess in the absence of questions, I will pass over to Mallika for the second half of this. Thank you everyone for your time. Please stick on. We have another hour of engaging session.
Thanks, Gauri. And thank you for everyone who has shared their thoughts, experiences, and ideas so far. I'm going to actually pick up right from where Manjula ma'am left off, where she said that I think there needs to be that appetite, that momentum, and that demand from citizens, right? And a wider group of citizens, not just the same people saying it, not just a small group saying it again and again, but a much wider city level sort of demand that needs to come up. And I think a big part of that is really understanding what the benefits of a pilot project have been. So while there is this great impact report that has been generated and produced, and most of us here have read it, and most of us here have been active contributors in creating that report, I think an important part is actually communicating the benefits to that larger audience who will then demand for more such projects. So on that note, I'd like to just call on Professor Verma to talk a little bit about, you've written that impact assessment and that big report that has come out. What are really some of the ways in which the overall quality of life of citizens improves when we do projects or initiatives like this?
Thanks, Mallika. Hope I am audible. Yeah. So, as Madam Manjula was saying initially, that when the initial idea was discussed and it was under that Innovating for Clean Air project, the primary focus that time when we started discussing was how do you demonstrate a clean air initiative with such kind of pedestrianization of a busy street. But later on, as we started developing methodology of how we should do a comprehensive impact assessment, we felt that expanding this to understand impacts on larger development goals of the city makes more sense. While of course air quality being an important part or an indicator of that larger development goal for the city. And what could be the larger development goal for the city other than improving the quality of life of people or improving the livability of cities? And that too, understanding such impacts from a micro intervention like this, even in a scientific arena, when we have looked at what approaches or somebody has done it, we could hardly find any such comprehensive methodology where such micro interventions have been studied and evaluated in terms of these larger development goals for the city on quality of life. And so, when we are talking about how we brought these cultural events and artists, etc., in fact, that also became eventually part of the understanding on the improvement in quality of life, because social well-being is an important component, of understanding quality of life. And so having more vibrant social spaces does have a definite impact. And so it became, automatically part of this test bed when we looked at the overall assessment. And so when we did the overall assessment, we looked at the three distinct pillars of sustainability that we keep talking about: social, environmental, and economic, and tried identifying both qualitative and quantitative sets of indicators that we can think about on each of these three dimensions, and covering both the visitors as well as the business owners, the commercial establishments on the street, which was equally important. It was not just about visitors and people, but also about how businesses benefit. In fact, last week I was in my hometown, Indore, on a personal visit. And if somebody is familiar with, a little bit with Indore, there's a famous street there called Chappan Dukan. It's Chappan. There are 56 shops, mostly, for recreation, nice restaurants and eateries, etc. From my childhood, since that being my hometown, I've seen that street being quite busy in the sense with traffic, because traffic always used to be allowed on that street, and still, there used to be some business. But this time when I went, I could see that the local administration has completely pedestrianized that street and have created ample of social spaces, sitting spaces, etc. The whole vehicles are, have been removed permanently. So there are permanent structures on the street. And the amount of crowd, of course, it was scary from the COVID point of view, but the amount of crowd and the footfall I could see, I had never seen that on that street. So this is again, example I could see from another street. If somebody goes and do a similar assessment, they'll find a similar, kind of impression about that street also. So, so coming back, this was the whole idea to understand this whole impact on these three pillars and use both qualitative and quantitative assessments. So there were loads of surveys that we did. At the same time, we also use sensors, air quality, fixed sensors, ambient sensors, as well as variable sensors. We also got, boarding and lighting counts given by VMRCL. Also, we collected ourselves at the bus stops. Traffic police really helped us, get the footfall data, the video data, so that we can assess the footfalls, assess the level of service, etc. So that, together, we really brought a very unique methodology on how we can make an assessment on overall quality of life using both the survey data and corroborating actually what we got from the sensors in terms of air quality, on how people even perceived the improvement in air quality through these survey questionnaires. So that actually, really make this assessment very unique, I would say. And it's one of its kind. Even when I look in a more technical sense in terms of if somebody has, used such a methodology, so it actually becomes a good guiding example for somebody else who is, implementing such a initiative in other cities to also adopt similar methodologies and then see how they're able to rate it. But of course, we already have examples or results to show from this initiative, what all one can expect when you do this kind of initiatives. Plus, I would say when you want to think about takeaways. Now, it is not just related to pedestrianization, I would say. Okay, one can also think about, and Madam Manjula also was also touching about it. For example, VMRCL is going full scale on TOD implementation on their future metro stations in phase 2, phase 3, etc. Transit-oriented development. So this actually becomes a wonderful, impact assessment where we understood having a metro station right, on the street. Okay, it's kind of becomes a TOD example. Okay, and we could see that there was a more than 100% increase in the boarding and lighting at the MG Road metro station during the period of pedestrianization. Okay, so this clearly showed that if you think about TOD zones in future, keep pedestrianization and the kind of land use that would support pedestrianization in mind when you develop these TOD zones, and you would see that the whole basic purpose of TOD, which is to improve the ridership on metro systems or urban rail systems would definitely improve. Okay, so this is a different angle of takeaway one can think about. Likewise, when you think about creating low emission zones or more socially vibrant zones in neighborhoods, okay, or other CBD areas, again, one can understand from this kind of pilot implementation that how much you can improve air quality and make spaces for people to breathe fresh air. Okay, you can make spaces where people can socialize, and keep in mind, resiliency of cities has become a very important aspect today when we have gone through this whole COVID issue, or even when you talk about this whole recurrent aspect of urban flooding. Whenever rain happens and we get areas flooded, having more wider and open spaces, spaces where people can walk freely, would also improve the resiliency of the city on many dimensions going further. So I would say the takeaways are quite far-reaching and on different angles that one can think about. I also talked about push and pull strategy. Yeah, how you can use these interventions to induce mode shift, trip mode, shift towards sustainable modes. So we really need to see these results in so many other dimensions of takeaways that we can think about. Let's look at your questions further. We can discuss more. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Varma. I think you've definitely covered my third question, which was also around the impact of this entire project on public transport usage. So I'm going to skip that, and I'm going to come back to a question which I had around you've spoken about improvement of quality of life. Sorry, Manjula ma'am, would you like to go first, or should I complete my question?
No, I just wanted to add one smaller. So as Professor Ashish Verma mentioned, after the Church Street pedestrianization and the impact assessment, etc., in our draft TOD policy, I mean, the policy is with the government for approval now, we mentioned that every TOD zone shall have a pedestrianized street. So in the policy, we incorporated that the TOD zone, which will anyway be a walkable, cyclable, and amenable to public transport, will also have a pedestrianized street. Just that as an impact I wanted to.
So that clearly shows how such impact assessment is also is influencing policies at the government level, through hard data at hand to, to support those kind of clauses that we want to insert in policies. Back to you.
Definitely. I think that's fantastic for us to know, as well as just, citizens of the city as well to know. Coming back to the question around quality of life, I heard you talk about, improvement of quality of life. I kind of wanted to stress on quality of life for all. So how does equity really come into the picture when we implement projects like this? What are some of the things we need to keep in mind to make such projects more equitable?
Certainly, yeah. I think this is a wonderful question, Malika, you asked. Equity certainly is a very important goal and aspect within this whole overall quality of life. Should improve not just for one or few sections of the society, but it should improve for all sections of the society. And how do you ensure that? Now, if you look at these kind of interventions, both from the point of view of people, common citizens who would like to have access to such spaces and would like to enjoy and feel better with respect to what they can achieve and get in life. It's also important how this pedestrianization aspect actually helped the street vendors also. And one could see during the pedestrianization how street vendors also found these whole spaces so productive from their point of view of being able to do business, to meet their livelihood, etc. I still remember, the last day of our impact assessment, although the pedestrianization continued after February also till April, May, I guess. But on the last day of our impact assessment, which was the 28th February, when I was there on the street wearing the Church Street t-shirt, by that time, of course, everybody could understand that anybody wearing that t-shirt is part of the core team. So several of the restaurant owners where I sat and had some coffee, or even while I was walking, and vendors, came to me, almost 10 to 15 different people who came to me and asked, what will happen to this initiative? Will it continue or not? And I threw back the question back to them and asked them, what do you think? Would you like? And everybody said, yes, this is wonderful. It's helping us. And this was alike among the upscale restaurants that are there on the street, as well as those street vendors. Okay, so this is one wonderful example of equity in terms of meeting livelihood. Other is, of course, such spaces are free for all. You don't charge tickets, unlike going to a pub, or even you go to mall. If you have affordability, then only you can buy anything there. Yeah, you can't do anything other than that. Or even park spaces like Kavan Park. Unfortunately, we are still trying to see, how government should stop vehicles from entering Kavan Park. But Kavan Park is also one such example of spaces which are equitable and accessible to all sections of the society. And government should rethink on that, going further. But this kind of spaces, makes it open for anybody to come and enjoy. And based on their affordability, they can enter a restaurant, or they can buy something from a street vendor who's also there. So, and then across age groups, we could see how different age group people really came on the street and enjoyed. And I mean, it was a wonderful example of how old people were enjoying, how young people were enjoying, how people with mothers with kids were enjoying, how people bringing their pets, were enjoying. So that way you could really understand that such kind of, initiatives, if made permanent, it will bring more equity in terms of access to better quality of life, better chances of livelihood. I would say. So this is an important takeaway, I would say, in terms of how you can create more equitable spaces in the city. I don't know if Madam would like to add anything on it.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share an anecdote. See, when we were doing this cycle day, we were moving it to various neighborhoods, and we were doing it in Jayanagar. There was a person of lower middle class family. When he came with his children, and they were enjoying there. And then I asked them, why do you like this initiative? And he mentioned that every time weekend comes, children want to go somewhere. They're bored at home, but it costs money. And here, it's close to home, and they can come here, and there is a recreation, they enjoy also, and it is easy on the pocket of the parents. Yes. So what Mr. Ashish Verma was mentioning also is similar to that. These are places which give an opportunity for families which may not be able to afford, going to a very upscale place, etc., to come and enjoy. And it's not just about the atmosphere, it's good quality air, and the whole fact of being together with other people, yes, seeing the, art, culture, performances, all this is, part of what you call, there are a lot of sound at the back end, but so all this is, is good, and it actually kind of increases the appreciation that people have for their own city. See, we say that people should take ownership of the city and so on. And I just want to mention here that though BBMP was very good and they had kind of put their Paura Karmikas to keep the street and maintain the street, etc., though so many people were coming, the Ugly Indian group, which was also kind of helping the BBMP in maintenance of the street and all, they used to post this photograph saying that after the weekend, hardly any garbage. So people also learned responsible behavior. So there are many such takeaways that we can get from such an experience. For the artists, of course, Mr. Yatish will mention, it's again an opportunity that is given to artists who may not be in a position to go and put their art out in some hi-fi galleries, but here they are, and there are all people coming and appreciating that. We had a potter who was teaching people how to make small pots, etc. So it's actually kind of gave opportunity to anybody who has some art or skill at their disposal to come and exhibit their skill or craft or whatever on the street. And that's where we require That's why we require such public spaces, because by very nature of a pedestrianization, it is actually, kind of improving equity, resulting in equitable, access to the space to the pedestrians and cyclists, as well as to artists, families, people of different age groups, abilities, and so on and so forth.
And I remember on one of the days during the pedestrianization, there was one young girl, exhibiting her handmade paintings on those, cluster of artists that were exhibiting. And we tend to ask her, how did you find this interesting and do you feel good and so on? And then her parents came and we were speaking to them. They said we, recently some months back shifted from Odisha, and we could never imagine experiencing something like this in their own city, and their daughter getting such an opportunity to come on such a vibrant street, and they were just so much enjoying and feeling good about this whole opportunity that they got. Yeah.
Thank you both. I think just coming back to one other thing, when it's, when we're trying to build demand and consensus, and also trying to see how we can take this particular project to other parts of the city, and of course make it permanent, going beyond just the pilot nature of it, is also understanding. And this is, going back to the report that's been created, understanding what has been the impact on businesses and how business owners have responded. So I'm just gonna request both Peter and Satya, because you've interacted so much with people on ground in that whole consensus building sort of process, as well as Peter, to talk about what was the impact on businesses. Was it sort of varied? What was the response that the project got? And then I'll ask my follow-up question based on that. Peter, you can go first, and then Satya, you can come in.
Yeah. First thing, when we approach them, explaining to them that, they get worried about the business. Will my business happen or not? If we don't allow traffic, we don't allow vehicles, will they come? That is the biggest challenge for a businessman over there. Then it's up to us that we explain that, the crowd will increase. There will more people will come around the street. They'll walk about more, so they'll have spend some time over there. Definitely that, your business will go. And that's natural. It's a worry for every businessman. What happened to the business? Will stop the vehicle? Will not allow. For years, the street has been that vehicle will come, they'll park, and basically on Church Street, you have places like a lot of restaurants and pubs. A lot of people visit, only particular for all this. There's not much any other, other commercial activities there more than restaurants and pub in this thing. So that was the concern and worry, and they spoke a lot about in the association and everything. Then it was like, explaining to them, first of all, is, in a week, you'll breathe clean. That was very important. And we'll have more people throughout Bangalore going to visit here, and the crowd will come, and there'll be a better impact than now. But now you can see only few people coming in with mindset going to a particular place. When you make a walking street, pedestrian street, you'll have from all over Bangalore people coming in visiting. Definitely your place also will get a commercial boost. Then more people will come to know about the place, and the more business will take place. So this was very difficult to convince them in the beginning, especially I think Satya agrees with me. I don't know if I'm right. Okay, to Satya.
No, I agree with Peter. I think when we met him and then we started this whole process, I had a good chat with him about how can we sell this to the people and then get forward and going forward. Peter has been very instrumental, like ma'am said, in getting the initial thing off the ground and getting us connected. And those concerns were there because it was new to most of these people. They are used to a certain way of working. But along the way, I can tell you lots of anecdotes. Professor has the quantitative measure. I can tell you when I speak with people, even last week when I went there, he's asking when is Church Street first coming back, guy in front of Deepak's building. For example, some of the shops which are shut down, open. Church Street Social, for example, were dragging their feet on opening again. But when we started it, they hurriedly opened and they started getting the al fresco thing going. There was also the pizzeria below Coconut Grove. They were due to open a little later, and they hurried up and they opened up faster. Shobha itself were quite slow on that, and when the parking thing came, and they just got that parking thing sorted out first faster, then they could get the building up and running. I spoke to a row of eateries in the basement near the KSPCB. That guy recovered all 70% of his revenues back in just the first 2 weekends. And he told me, I'm all back to normal. Thank you for doing this. We were all struggling. We were going to shut down because these things cost a bomb to rent in this place. I saw a lot of businesses coming up, and a lot of them saying that this is a boon to us. While they had the concerns about what it was, everybody benefited in the end from how this came about. So the economic activity definitely picked up. In fact, Blossoms used to tell me, I already have a ready customer. I don't need any new customer. But Marigoda told me later on that I got new people coming to my bookshop, which I never expected they would come. There's a younger crowd which is coming. It's not always, because you're always thinking that the old guard which used to shop at me and have a relationship, only they will come. And you're happy preserving that. That's what is happening in Commercial Street as well. I don't think new people will come here. Now they are seeing that new people do come here. I think overall it is positive, though you may not, most of them are anecdotal for me. Even today, if you go there are people asking, how can we? They will obviously have concerns because it's a mindset change. They have to do a lot of other things. But I felt that there is a huge boost to economic activities by doing this. And that is what we are again and again saying with Professor's report and all that is, we have always heard that London economic activity grew by 40% when pedestrianization was included. Nobody believed that. That is London. They are posh people. No cyclist is going to come and by here. I hold all my meetings in Church Street now, and I ask them to come by the metro. The business third wave is right next to it, and everybody comes by the metro, and I meet there. And I have begun to come to Church Street only because of the environment it offers. Today, high streets are competing against malls and online businesses. You go to a mall because you have a peaceful environment to walk around and shop. If you don't provide that opportunities, you're going to lose out. You're afraid to make the change, but if you do, you will discover new customers, new opportunities that might not be available before. You might even be able to get localization benefits from walking, and every person who goes in, he's not just coming to your shop. When he walks around, he takes from more businesses. And it happens in every shopping street that I go to. It is never just go a park in front, only buy from you and go away. You always try to walk and do more. And I think what ma'am said is very interesting, is that we are very happy that the TOD has put in these clauses. Look at the 40 metro stations that we have, 60 plus suburban trains that we have, stations that we have, plus some of the TTMCs, around 10-15 of them, and large bus stands. That's 115 plus transit nodes we are talking about. Even if 1 kilometer around every transit node, we are talking about 120 kilometers plus of walking and cycling friendly streets that can transform the city in one shot. So for I think economically it is already proven, and we are again and again trying to prove the same thing. And Professor has done a good job of trying this, and it is there now in our. Nobody can say this is only working in a foreign country. It has worked here, and there's no denying that fact.
Thank you, Satya. So I think it's pretty clear that the economic benefits do exist. I think just for the sake of it, I'm going to ask Professor Verma to, in a snapshot, tell us, of course, we know of the social benefits now, we know of the economic benefits. If you could just tell us what were some of the very tangible impacts on air quality? So coming to the more environmental impacts, and I think that's really coming down again to how do we convince more people to demand for such more streets in the city to show them the environmental and health benefits, right? There is a report, but how do we convey that to more people? And for that, I would love for you to just give us a little summary of what you observed.
Sure. So in terms of purely quantitative assessment of air quality, we had 3 ambient air quality sensors that we had placed at different sections. One at the entry side of the Brigade Road on the Church Street in front of Starbucks. Another was in between, and third one was near the SBI ATM, I guess. And the whole idea was to continuously assess over not just weekend, but also over weekday, how and over time, over day, how it varies and so on. Good thing to see was on most of the weekends, except few, towards the end of the December, where some construction activity was happening on Brigade Road due to expansion of footpaths and so on. Except those few days, all the other weekends, the PM10 and PM2.5 levels were within the CPCB limits of 60 microgram per meter cube for PM2.5 and 100 on the same unit for PM10. Even when we measured air quality index based on the CPCB formula, it was within good and satisfactory limit on all the weekends. So it was clear, that when you have vehicle-free spaces, it does bring improvements. However, and this also leads us to a good takeaway from this, is it did had some impact of the adjoining streets when they're heavy on traffic. For example, during the evening hours, the traffic gets heavy on MG Road, Brigade Road, and adjoining road. It did had some impact on the PM10 and 2.5 levels on the Church Street also. Okay, which tend to go a little higher, but still, they were within, most of the time they were within this limits. Also, the construction activity on Brigade Road, plus that new, I think, terminal, metro terminal, which is under construction at this junction, Kaveri Emporium Junction, that construction activity and the construction dust also had some impact. So the point that we can take away, that going further from a street level to a more zonal based or area level initiative would actually bring definitely much more improvement in air quality. So thinking about low emission zones would be a even better approach to think about when we go for such initiatives in future. They could be thought about for areas which are busy like this, this whole area of Commercial Street, MG Road and Brigade Road and Church Street, etc. It can also be thought about in neighborhoods where you would like to, create a more free, vehicle-free environment and clean air quality. So while on street level, definitely it has improvement, but if you go for area-based thinking about low emission zones, you would have even more definitive improvements in the air quality. And likewise, when we corroborated this with the survey data, in our survey data to both visitors as well as shop owners, we had specific questions on their perceived understanding of improvement in air quality. And it kind of corroborated quite well with what we observed from these sensors and what people felt that, they could feel the improvement in air quality. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Verma. My last question really before I, go into a sort of closing is around the sentiment analysis that was done as a part of the report. And again, I think coming to, that is what people were feeling and thinking. And again, an important sort of data point for us to really amplify and blow up, whether it's in the media or social media, etc. What did the sentiment analysis tell us about, what do people think and feel about such initiatives?
Yeah, I think in today's age, when people are quite active on the social, on the virtual social media space, we thought it is equally important for us to judge and gauge the sentiment of people about this initiative on the social media space as well. So we adopted this whole methodology of doing sentiment analysis by mining the comments and captions on Instagram. What we could see is typically we try to understand whether the comments are positive or neutral or negative. And we tried different methods so as to be sure that we are having consistent results. And what we could see that out of all the comments and captions, 78% of the comments were positive about this whole initiative. Then we created this word cloud. That word cloud helps us understand in what sense people, in what way people think about these spaces. What is that they are saying or feeling about it? And this is again something that really corroborated this whole idea of quality of life. So when we looked at the word cloud, the prominent words that came out was, the name of the city, Bangalore, enjoy, free, great, good, yeah, space, beautiful. These are all words that signifies the understanding of more social spaces, understanding of spaces that helps people feel better and improve quality of life. So in many ways, even the social media comments and mining them and creating this word cloud helped us, correlate well with this whole idea that such initiatives can improve quality of life. So this was a wonderful way in which we could actually corroborate a lot of findings from our survey data as well as the actual sensors that were there on the place, from the point of view of how people are expressing themselves on social media. So that was equally heartening, and I think it really added a lot of value to the overall methodology that we had for the assessment of quality of life. Ma'am, you want to add anything on that?
No.
Yeah.
So I think now that we know, what were the processes that were involved, what were the learnings, what were the sort of the coordination that was required, and of course, what the benefits of this pilot have been. I kind of want to do a quick rapid fire round with all the panelists where you take a minute to just tell us and tell everybody here, what would it now take to make um, these pilots into permanent sort of features in the city based on the learnings, based on the benefits that have emerged. We may not have all the answers today, but I would really love for everyone to just just say what's on the top of your mind in terms of making these more permanent. I think that is what the question that is on everybody's mind today, that a pilot is great, but now what next? So I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but would someone like to volunteer to go first? And then you can keep handing over to the next person.
I'm sure DLT can express first.
I would only kind of open up and say that there is definitely an unmet need for pedestrianized streets. And that's kind of demonstrated during this, because of this Church Street initiative. Political will is very, very important. We were able to do the Church Street initiative because we got full support from the MLA and the MP. And without that support, I don't think we would have gone anywhere. Number 3 is that businesses will benefit, but we need to take them into confidence. And I just wanted to kind of mention here in passing that many businesses on Church Streets have even given discounts to people who have come. So there is a benefit to the businesses which are there, but we need to convince them. And what it takes to kind of scale it up is painstakingly, we need to work with all the stakeholders. See, it's not, we think, with this Church Street initiative, it would be very easy to go and replicate it elsewhere. But when we were doing, we wrote to to the concerned agency to pedestrianize Commercial Street, and all the association people came and kind of opposed, and they went here and there opposing it and things like that. So each one is a challenge, but if we can build more public opinion in favor of that, I think if public want a pedestrianized street, definitely businesses cannot say we don't want the street pedestrianized. So we need to kind of build a lot of consensus and work together. All the like-minded organizations should work together. And we are hoping soon we would have in Gandhi Bazaar one example of a good pedestrianized street for the city. But we definitely need a lot of painstaking effort and coordination and political will to scale it up. Right. Thank you.
So if I can just add to that,
Maybe it's like a baton, no? So I'll hand it over to Satya, right?
Thanks. No, so this is a very key point that ma'am made, which I was going to say, is that we need to have more sessions with the political representatives and have them understand what are these benefits and how they should look at these things, right? Maybe have them in some of these sessions that as civil society we do, where we talk about these benefits and let them understand what it brings, because they have to stand up there and convince a bunch of people as well and take them along in that journey and present the vision for their area the way it is. Because the technical parts of it, like it's a lot of hard work that BBMP and TULT have done. We have all supported it. When we say it comes from the people, it has to come from there. And also a part of it needs to be that how do we get the political people wanting to vision a city like this, and also some amount of policy input would really help. Is that when the built form is there and when we have pedestrian, I see different types of people will come to live there because their dependency on the car might be less. Right? Today, too many people. In fact, I'll give you the anecdote of one of the families or one of the people who are opposing this whole thing in the residence. Said, no, I have been to all these walking streets. I really enjoy them in New York and Stockholm and Europe, but I don't want it on my street.
Yeah.
So this not in my backyard is a problem because for them, the comfort and the adaptation of what they've already been to, they don't want even to leave, right? I mean, it's just 500-meter stretch. You could park there and walk, but it's in our minds that we don't want to envision a different city or envision a different picture. Who paints that picture? Who is the stakeholder who paints this picture and the vision and says that we want this city and we will all go towards it? And how do we take people along? So if we identify these stakeholders and work with everyone, then I think it will help. And the policy also needs to help. If you're doing TOD and there's going to be more built up area, it has to come as an incentive for creating some pedestrian facilities. Can you sell air rights for creating better facilities for people to live on walking streets?
Sorry, because you mentioned, Satya, the TOD policy talks about it, that incentive FAR and increased FAR can be given in case you give more space for public spaces and public asset creation and so on. And in the TOD policy, we're talking about a TOD zone. We're calling it 666. A TOD zone should be accessible within 500 meters, within 6 minutes of walking, 1 kilometer within 6 minutes of cycling or 12 minutes of walking, and beyond that 1 kilometer by feeder transport through 6 minutes. So that's the core principle of the TOD policy. Hopefully it will get approved. But even with the policy and all, we definitely need to build a lot of momentum, as Satya mentioned, and have a vision for the city where the vision should not be that I want very peaceful, less congested city, but I should have my car. I should have my freedom to move in the car wherever I like. That should not be the vision. The vision would also mean that you need to put in some effort on your part, right? To walk, to cycle, so that should be the vision. Thank you.
Yeah, so if I just,
yes.
I mean, it also eventually adds to a more healthy and active lifestyle, which definitely have health benefits as well when we think in that terms. I must highlight, that this project also was recognized and awarded both on its societal impact as well as on its research value by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, as well as by the Volvo Foundation getting these awards, the commendation award to the state, the best research paper award, and a special recognition certificate from Volvo, which actually means that the eminent juries, who have looked at these awards and selected the awardees, have peer reviewed it and have understood the value, both on how this has a societal value and impact, but also in terms of how a unique methodology was used. So I think this should really help stakeholder take it more seriously, as well as government at the highest level own this idea, because they have been recognized, they have been awarded for their initiative. And I must say, this test bed was also about how political leadership can own such idea, right from the former honorable CM inaugurating the Church Street initiative, and during the closing function, we had the honorable MP and MLA, releasing the report. So I think with this recognition, every stakeholder, including the government machinery at the highest level, should take this and own this idea, take it more seriously. I think it should become an enabler. This whole award and recognition should become an enabler for a more permanent, adoption of these initiatives. Thanks.
Yeah.
Peter, Yatish, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I would like to say, like, I agree with Manjula ma'am, the political will. In our country, unless there's a political will, nothing will initiate. I mean, it won't boost. So it should become a subject in BBMP Council and Assembly in the session. They have to talk about it, and it should be a task to all the elected representatives, either BBMP or Assembly, that they should have at least a 2 or 3 pedestrian streets in the Assembly. Then only you can see a boost. Because they get involved, I think everything will, like, you don't have to struggle what all we went through and everything. But it should be a subject in the Assembly and BBP Council. Till then, until that, it's tough. We'll keep fighting on the ground, and there'll be a lot of no, yes, no, yes. Will be like, and that's my opinion on that.
I have a suggestion. I don't know. There are a lot of things and that change variables here that make or break a space like this that you're trying to create, because a lot of people have to come together and make it happen. And this is the one thing that's going to take time, as ma'am mentioned, as everybody is aware. Like when we try to bring in a lifestyle into a street where a particular lifestyle already exists, it's always going to take time because we have to make everybody a stakeholder and put responsibility back on them to take what the street offers back to them, as well as give something back to the street as well. So on that note, learning from Church Street is a great experience that people can experience on a permanent scale at a place where you don't have to go through all these bureaucratic uh, hassle in terms of how to experience what happens in Church Street. Can be a permanent demonstration space, like probably Boulevard on MG Road, which is a great space which is not being used to the greatest potential that it is capable of being used. And that space can be opened up for probably artists over the weekend, or all you need is just monitoring. You don't have to change any of the protocols, any of the, uh, you know, all you need is an observer who's there to report back to you what is happening there, and put the responsibility of keeping that space as a public space on the people who use that space, instead of uh, I don't know how to put it, but there are places, enough spaces where uh, we don't have to stop people from doing what they're doing. At the same time, there is another alternate space where things that happen on Church Street can be witnessed all the time under particular conditions. The conditions apply the same to everyone, and everybody must follow that and observe, report, and learn from that, and make changes to that and add it back to wherever we implement whatever projects we I want this to happen. And for that to happen, we need everybody to see what happens. And when it stops happening, there is no way to prove to someone that this is how it is.
I'd like to add one more point. We probably also need a innovative communication strategy, so that the benefits of what we had or what we learned from Church Street can be disseminated widely to the people. So the main thing here is to convince people to actually have these streets in their neighborhoods, right? So a more innovative communication strategy is also something that we should look at, maybe.
Agree. Would anyone like to go next?
I think
And
Basaraj, sorry, go ahead, please.
No, I'm saying adding to Sonal, I think what you guys are doing from Purpose is definitely one of those strategy of an innovative way of communicating and deliberating on such initiatives. And more things as we do, I'm sure would work out well.
Yeah. I think just to add to that, currently, there is something known as the Sustainable Mobility Network, which is a network of organizations and partners working in the mobility space that has come up. And I think, it is then, when it comes to at least communications, it is then up to the network as well to disseminate widely the information that is coming out. And that's definitely like a point that both Gauri and I will take back to the network in terms of, how do we build that consensus and that demand from the people themselves. And I think Bangalore is just a great place to start with, because there's such an active civil society already. that, just that little nudge is needed, but it's already moving. There's already momentum. There is one question in the chat box from Madhumita, which I thought I'll read out and open it up to the panel in case anyone would like to respond.
Mallika, just a second. I don't think Basavaraj sir has responded to the previous question.
All right.
Ma'am, I just missed the question. Kindly, if you can repeat it.
So a rapid fire 1 minute in terms of what do you think, how do you think we can go from pilot to permanent infrastructure in the city when we talk about these pedestrianization projects?
I think it's a policy decision that needs to be taken. It is already there in the policy. It needs an implementation, a strong will from the political and administrative side, because we are there to implement it at the ground level. Even the public also, if they raise this point always, then we can take it forward, because there is always a backlash from few quarters, but the benefits of it is more than what is needed at this point of time.
Got it. I'll quickly read out Madhumita's question. She says that the panelists spoke about how pedestrianized streets are a holistic experience where people come not just to shop for a need. However, would this be applicable to all typologies of streets? Because as mentioned earlier, Church Street by itself is a unique and iconic space associated with a very leisurely use. In that case, should pedestrianized streets be approached differently with different land uses? I hope someone can elaborate on the other attempts being made for pedestrianization.
I will just start the reply. As we mentioned, there are different typologies. For example, in Church Street, you don't have so many street vendors. You don't have too many. Now, when we are now planning for finalizing the design for Gandhi Bazaar, now Gandhi Bazaar has a lot of street vendors who are regulars, who go, who sit there and who sell, and people go there to buy from them. So there you have shops, as well as you have street vendors, you have restaurants, and you have some residences, not many, but very few. So there, you need to take into account that, more or less, regular vendors, their concerns, their interest into view, and accordingly design. So that's what we are trying to do. Take that into consideration and design it accordingly. Similarly, just going on with the example of Gandhi Bazaar has also, like Church Street, has a checkered history, and there is, there are a lot of fairs and festivals that happen, which spill over into Gandhi Bazaar area. So whatever we are planning should take into account these events that happen, which would, like the Kadalakaya Parichay and all that stuff. So which kind of spills over to Gandhi Bazaar, and we need to plan for that too, plan for those events, etc. So, and suppose you take some other street where, let's say, a lot of lorries and a lot of logistic, what you call the loading, unloading takes place, etc., etc. Then you need to kind of provide for that. Let's say you have a street where a lot of wholesale, work happens. There are a lot of lorries coming in there, and there is loading and unloading. And while you are trying to pedestrianize, maybe because it's a mix of wholesale, retail kind of an environment, you also need to keep in and take into account the loading and unloading requirements and so on and so forth. So definitely we need to look at the typology of the street, and we need to have a plan. It's not that we have a plan for Church Street, the same plan will work elsewhere. The same plan is not going to work in Gandhi Bazaar, therefore we have a different plan. So it will be street specific plan to be made, taking into consideration, see, finally we are also not doing pedestrianization for the sake of pedestrianization, right? It has to increase the comfort, convenience of people. So who are going to use it? They are the users, they are the stakeholders. So, giving it something which will benefit, we have to plan in such a way it benefits the stakeholders also. For example, if you look at 8th Main of Malleshwaram, a lot of people come there during festivals and things like that, normal days. If they're, if it is very easy for them to move in and do their shopping, definitely it's a good experience for them. It's also a good experience for the vendors and shopkeepers, because their visibility also increases. When you have a lot of traffic, visibility of business gets reduced, right? Not all businesses will be visible to the people who are going there because too much of traffic going on. So I think the planning process, it's not that every street can be pedestrian. See, it depends on the street. If it's a purely residential street, let us say. Now, if a purely residential street, it could be where traffic calming is done. It could be a slow street where we tell people you cannot move beyond the speed, etc. And we may not pedestrianize it as such, but we may have certain components of pedestrianization, maybe wider footpaths where people can walk, like that. So the plan and design will depend on the kind of street that we have, and we are conscious of that as we are planning. Because if you have, just to give an example, if you have 200 residents and you have to give 200 permits and you pedestrianize the street, it's not going to work at all. So we have to look and choose streets and do that, and discuss with the stakeholders and come out with a solution. Right. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm conscious of time. We are at 12:58, so it is a good time to close. Gauri, I'll pass over to you for closing.
Thank you. I don't think it is possible to summarize what we have learned from today's discussion. There have been so many threads that we picked up, but broadly if I can take the liberty of highlighting some of the ones that stood out for me, is the inherent equity of public spaces and how public spaces are accessible and open to everybody. And that while transport is a direct relation, but it has so many other consequences in terms of quality of life for all stakeholders involved. And that was something the anecdotes definitely added to that. And I guess in terms of takeaways, two of the things that definitely stood out was Manjula ma'am's open call to resident welfare associations, civil society organizations who are interested in seeing more such streets to collaborate with DULT and with BBMP to make that happen. While the process may be long, there is the open call for participation has already been made. And I think that that is definitely a good takeaway for us. It's also great to learn that the transit-oriented development policy has an inherent, as an inbuilt factor for pedestrianizing one road within TOD zones. And these are, this is definitely something that is great takeaways for us as residents and citizens of Bangalore who want to see more pedestrian-friendly roads that prioritize not just mobility, but quality of life over all else, and move away from private transport-oriented developmental conversations. So on that note, I would like to thank every one of you for taking the time out for such a robust conversation. We have learned so much from this today, and we hope to take the learnings from this and make sure that the outcome of this discussion can reach as many interested parties as possible. We hope your phone lines are flooded with requests, ma'am, from citizens across the city who are interested in taking this up, and hope you will have your support, Basavaraj Kawari sir and Lokesh sir, who's not here right now, in making these things happen. Thank you, Peter Sampson, for all of the might that you have brought into making this pilot come alive. Satya and Professor Ashish Verma for coordinating all the other parts and pieces that made this project possible, the data and the kind of stakeholders that were brought in for such a project. It would have been impossible to have this conversation in its absence. And also definitely to Sonal for doing all the painstaking coordination between all of the different agencies. And finally, I'd like to close with thanking Yatish for opening up, translating that conversation to artists and the larger community in Bangalore, and sort of embodying the spirit of what public spaces can mean for all of us as Bangaloreans. Thank you so much for your time. It has been a really, really great conversation.
Thanks to you and Mallika for putting together this session. I think it was very enriching. Thanks.
Congratulations to all of you for having done that. I don't know how long it takes for somebody to come up with something like this. It's definitely well worth the time that you guys have spent making it happen.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gauri. Thank you, Mallika, and thank you, Purpose. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.